Hare Krishna. So we are continuing, and you could say beginning. We're beginning our study again of Bhagavad-Gita. I'm coming from Alachua Temple in the United States, and just a month or two ago, we finished the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we had a very big celebration when we finished the 12th canto of Bhagavatam. We had studied the whole thing through, and then what did we do? Start again. It never gets old. It's always fresh. So similarly here on Gita Jayanti, your last verse of 18th chapter was spoken on, and then what did we do? Start again. Always ever fresh. So starting tonight, we're reading from the introduction. We'll read about 6 pages of the introduction, which include the prayers in the beginning, which are not any by chance. Prabhupada, everything is very deliberate. If you can remember, I won't start there. I'll start with the prayers first. Hare Krishna. We can say the prayers together, and we'll also recite the translations, okay? Okay. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Padati Svapadantikam. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Okay, before we go on to the next prayer, in that first line, Om Agyanati Mirandasya Jananjana Salakaya. Do you know what a Salakaya means or what it is? An instrument for? Yes. For opening the eyes. The Salakaya. Get the Salakaya out of your eyes. No, sorry, that's not exactly the way it goes, but that's the instrument. So how does Prabhupada open our eyes? Yeah, knowledge. And what makes our eyes, what makes it so difficult to see is when you're seeing in ignorance, in darkness, you're not really seeing. So Srila Prabhupada is opening our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, and therefore we can, by seeing and hearing, we can see things as they are. So therefore, Bhagavad-Gita as it is. We'll get back to that point again. Okay, Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunath Das, Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishaka. So in relation to this verse and this prayer and offering respects to the previous acharyas, those of you who are in last night's class or the previous classes, how can you relate that to what Prabhupada said in the preface? How can we relate to the fact that Srila Prabhupada is offering this prayer to the previous acharyas in relationship to what did he say in the preface? That was very important for us to have a basic. These pages of preface and introduction. The introduction is about 30 pages. I didn't actually check on that, but it's around 30 pages. So it's actually a small booklet in and of itself. And so they're foundational blocks, building blocks, philosophical building blocks that we can build our fortress of spiritual knowledge on. So in relation to these prayers, Srila Prabhupada had said something in the preface about the parampara. That's your secret word there. That's the I gave it away, but now you have to explain it in your own words. So what's the relationship with these prayers to what Prabhupada said in the preface? Prabhu, can you remind me what your name is? Gora? Krishna. Okay, Gora Krishna. Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Do you want to take the microphone, or you just? It's good because personally, I'm a person that listens on the internet, and when people don't speak into the mic, they don't hear. Okay, so.
Well, he gave all credit to his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami.
Mm-hmm.
Said it was all due to him.
Correct. Thank you. Something else you'd like to add? Vegavati, Prabhu, Mataji, Prabhuji, Vaishnavi, Hariboli.
He gave all credit to his spiritual master and the entire parampara. So starting with these prayers, he's giving full credit
It's on.
to them.
Yes.
You know, not that he himself has any credit in the matter, except that he presented the message without change.
Without change. The
As it is.
big important foundational principle, which I know you're all familiar with, but we never get tired of re-emphasizing important principles. That these are very foundational principles. They're not, Srila Prabhupada's not giving us, twisting out a new meaning of Bhagavad-Gita. In fact, that's what he's saying. That's what makes this Bhagavad-Gita so potent, that he's following in the succession of the conclusion of the previous acharyas. And that's what makes the parampara solid. In 89th chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is entitled 89th chapter.
Which cancer?
Oh, excuse me. Well, but it's true. But there's only 89th chapters in the 10th canto. But still, I didn't say that. Prayers by the personified Vedas. Srila Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on Bhagavatam, for each prayer of the personified Veda, he gives his own slok, summarizing the prayer. And I don't know exactly which one, but one of the beginning prayers of the personified Vedas, he makes a prayer, and now that I'm saying it, it could have been him or Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but one of those great acharyas, they make a prayer that he says, if the wind of indiscretion threatens to knock me down, then I must hold on steadfast to the lotus feet of Sukadev Goswami, Vyasadeva, and the parampara. So in other words, if the wind of our indiscretion, if I'm overly puffed up with my own understanding or misunderstanding, and I'm presenting that indiscretion, that lack of proper understanding, if that knocks me down, my lack of understanding, then in order to counteract that, if I hold on, if I come to this, if we try our best to repeat the conclusions of the previous acharyas, then there's some credit there. And that will keep us fixed in the parampara. Okay, continuing on with our prayers. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distress and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Sri Rani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Now this prayer has always struck me because whoever composed it saying, you're the friend of the distress and the source of creation, which is a source of distress if you're in there in the conditional side. But anyway, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavan, daughter of King Vishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desired trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Another point. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, is explaining the position. There's a description of Sukadeva Goswami, there's a description of Parikshit Maharaj, and there's a description of the sages in Naimisharanya. And what is their common characteristic is that they all have so much compassion. Like the sages of Naimisharanya performing their 1,000-year sacrifice. Why were they doing that? Why were they undergoing such a huge endeavor? Because they were trying to ward off the influence of the age of Kali by performing that sacrifice. And why were they interested in that? Because they could understand the fallen condition of the living entities, especially in Kali Yuga, and they were compassionately trying to enlighten them. And that's a characteristic of a Vaishnava, that there's compassion there for the suffering of others. But not just on a material sense, but actually understanding the real nature of the living entity as servant of Krishna. That you can't be happy here if you think you're your body. If you think that, by satisfying the demands of the minds and the senses are going to make me happy. Been there, done that, millions of lives, for many years, billions of lives previous to this, and just even in this 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years in this body, we've done it so many times, and we've heard so many times, Prabhu, you're not your body. Prabhu, you're not your mind. Prabhu, you'll never be happy. And we've experienced it ourselves, just like one of the examples that you gave last night was of the new bhakta who was so happy just rolling chapati because it was service to Krishna. And connecting with that as a servant of Krishna and acting in that whatever humble capacity, that's what's going to satisfy the living entity. Because just classic Vedic example, which was given last night, the hand connected to the body functions. And those of us who've had dysfunctional hands and fingers removed from some of their hands can see when the fingers are on the ground, they do not work the same as they did when they were connected to the body. Okay, sorry. Continuing on, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. I offer my obeisances to Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now we begin Srila Prabhupada's introduction essay, little booklet on the introduction to Bhagavad-Gita. And similarly, in the introduction to the Bhagavatam, there's a wealth of information there. So there's a wealth of information here in this introduction about basic principles of Krishna consciousness and very elevated principles in Krishna consciousness just in the introduction. It's just amazing how Srila Prabhupada, he's so fully convinced and fully conversant in the conclusions that he has no qualms, he has no reservations of just starting off up there. For someone from a degraded background like I am, just hearing that you're not your body is like, whoa. But that's like basic ABC. And Srila Prabhupada goes ABC, and then he's going to, in a few paragraphs, he's going to talk about the five primary swarups that of the living entity, their relationship with Krishna. He's going to go through the whole thing, just like, and the potency's there in his words to understand it. Even some of the devotees were explaining their introduction to Bhagavad-Gita, how they read Bhagavad-Gita for the first time and didn't understand very much, but some things really resonated with them. Because why? Because when someone is that elevated in purity and in spiritual realization, it's explained in Nectar of Devotion, that the Ladini Shakti manifests within their heart and can inject the ability to understand in their words. Their words are so potent that they're also, in and of themselves, are giving us the potency, the ability to understand them. Maybe not fully right in the very beginning, but it's there. Just like, and Prabhupada often gives the example of a parrot. A parrot can repeat, but because he has no real realization of it, it doesn't have the same potency if he's saying, "You're not your body, you're a spirit soul." You know, that's nice. We have some friends in Alachua that have their birds trained that can say things like that. But anyway, but when the pure devotee says those things, the potency is there. And anyway, okay. So I often try to imagine how the circumstance was. Are you familiar with the circumstance, how Prabhupada wrote or spoke this introduction? We were just hearing this the other day, that Srila Prabhupada came to give a lecture and nobody was there. Nobody came to the lecture that time. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but obviously in the early days, you know, lectures were Wednesdays and Fridays or whatever, and one of the days nobody was in New York, and nobody was there. So was Prabhupada frustrated? Oh, there's not enough people here to talk to. Oh, it's a waste of time. Nope. He just turned on his recorder, and he recorded this introduction to Bhagavad-Gita at that time. And here we have it for posterity? Anyway. Okay, starting. Yes, please. Microphone is somewhere. It's coming over. Thank you. And anytime anyone has a comment or a question, please feel free.
This comment for Prabhupada when he was alone and he said, even nobody is there, the walls are listening, the small insects they are listening, they are getting some benefit. You don't have to see whether you are alone or nobody is there. Somebody is there listening.
Somebody's there listening.
Prabhupada gave this example.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Very pertinent and very, very pertinent, yeah. Somebody's there listening, even it doesn't appear that. And even if it's who's listening? The person who's speaking sometimes, you know? Sometimes I'm thinking, oh man, I'm the one, I'm speaking these things exactly because that's exactly what I need to hear. Anyway, Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada starts. Bhagavad-Gita is known as Gita-Upanishad. It is the essence of all Vedic knowledge and one of the most important Upanishads in Vedic literature. So just the term Vedic literature, we had a slide in our Bhakti Shastri program of what constitutes the Vedic literature. Because we, coming from a Western background, we can say, oh, the Vedas say this, the Vedas, and we have really not very much clue what Veda means or what it encompasses. So some nice devotee had done a chart of all the different Vedic literatures, the categories of Vedic literatures, and the literatures for the mode of goodness, and this one, the agamas, and this, and it's a huge, huge, huge body of literature. And what's left manifest now in this, quote, Kali Yuga time is very small compared to what the whole body of Vedic literature is. But the great sages, those who are purified, like, for example, the sages in Naimisharanya, or sages of that caliber, they can access, because the Vedic literature is eternal, it's sometimes manifest and sometimes not. But if someone is on the correct wavelength, they can access that because it's eternally, perfectly pure spiritual vibration. So, Gita Upanishad, Prabhupada is saying this Bhagavad Gita is one of the most important Upanishads in the Vedic literatures. And then, of course, he gives this explanation. Of course, there are many commentaries in English on the Bhagavad Gita, and one may question the necessity of another one. The present edition can be explained in the following way. Recently, an American lady asked me to recommend an English translation of Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada goes on to say, I'm just going to summarize that paragraph. He says that, so what can I say? There's so many comments on Bhagavad Gita in English and in India and all around the world. There's so many comments, but they're not hitting on the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. And he gives a great example further on, we'll get to it, of how one has to understand Bhagavad Gita. Because unless one understands, and Prabhupada's main point is, unless one understands Bhagavad Gita as Krishna intended or as Arjuna understood it, then what are they understanding? They're not understanding Bhagavad Gita as it is. Prabhupada says they're trying to twist some meaning out of it. So in the second paragraph, Prabhupada says, the spirit of Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita itself. It is just like this, and I bet you all of us have had this experience. Sometimes you're feeling a little ill, maybe you have a frog in your throat, or you have a fever, or you have a rash, and a friend will say, oh, I had exactly that, and I took XYZ, and you should take it too. And good advice you could say, but is it really the same thing? Do you really have the same symptoms? Or you might get someone who will volunteer, well, I just had the flu and I had these pills. The doctor gave me these pills, so you can take them. Here they are. You can take them. And the directions say, take it on an empty stomach 3 times a day. And you think, oh, that's too much trouble. I'll just take it twice a day after meals and wonder why I'm not getting cured. So Prabhupada makes the point. The spirit of Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita itself. It is just like this. If we want to take a particular medicine, then we have to follow the directions written on the label. We cannot take the medicine according to our own whim or the direction of a friend. It must be taken according to the directions on the label or the directions given by a physician. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita should be taken or accepted as it is directed by the speaker himself. The speaker of Bhagavad Gita is Lord Sri Krishna. He is mentioned on every page of Bhagavad Gita as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. So in one technical sense, Krishna is not mentioned in Bhagavad Gita on every single page as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Srila Prabhupada for sure puts it in there, so we'll get it through our dull heads. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Bhagavan refers to him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, the word Bhagavan sometimes refers to any powerful person. We remember from Bhagavatam, Indra is also mentioned as Bhagavan Indra, or Bhagavan Shiva, or, some of the demigods are Narda, Bhagavan Narda Dev, yes. And so it means a highly elevated person. But who is the sage who gave the definition of Bhagavan? Parashara Muni. And what did he say were the characteristics of the Bhagavan? 6 opulences. Yes. All.
Wealth, strength, renunciation.
Okay, shh. Yeah, and some others? Beauty, renunciation, and strength and knowledge. I couldn't, whatever. Yeah. So all of those characteristics unlimitedly. Not just some money, some beauty, some strength. No, unlimitedly. The person who possesses all of that, that's Bhagavan. That's the Bhagavan that we're talking about when we talk about Sri Krishna Bhagavan Ki Jai. So he's speaking this Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. And certainly there. And certainly here, Bhagavan designates Lord Sri Krishna as a great personality. But at the same time, we should know that Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed by the great acharyas, spiritual masters like, and who does he say first? Sankaracharya. Now, isn't that wonderful? Wonderfully unusual, right? Sankaracharya, the great monist, impersonalist and how Prabhupada loves to talk very affectionately about monas and mayavadis and impersonalists, but he's giving Vedic examples and he's giving traditional examples too. So, but Sankaracharya was known to say, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Mudha Mute. Yes, so worship the Krishna. So, and then he names other acharyas in various sampradayas. Ramanuja Acharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbaka Swami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and many other authorities of Vedic knowledge in India. The Lord himself also establishes himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Bhagavad-Gita, and he is accepted in the Brahma Samhita and the Puranas. So here, Prabhupada's not, just like when Arjuna in the 11th chapter of the Gita, when he says Param Brahma, I think it's going to be quoted. Yeah, when he says that you are the Supreme Person, someone might say, well, he's just saying that because he's a friend of Krishna. But then he gives Asita, Narada, Devala, Vyas. He's giving Vedic authorities who are their great personalities. They accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore we also do. So he's giving Vedic, it's like Shruti and Smriti. He's giving Vedic authority and he's giving contemporary authorities. Therefore, we should take Bhagavad Gita as it is directed by the personality of Godhead himself. In the 4th chapter of the Gita, 4:1-3, the Lord says, let's chant these verses together. Imam vivashvate yogam proktavam aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manor ikshvakave bravid evam parampara praptam imam rajasayo vidu sakalene hamahata yogunasta parantapa saevayam maya tedya yoga prokta paratana bhakto sime sakacheti rahasyam yetad uttamam. Here, the Lord informs Arjuna that this system of yoga. So, which chapter were we quoting from there? Just check. What's the name of the 4th chapter? Transcendental knowledge. Okay. Here, the Lord informs Arjuna that this system of yoga, Bhagavad Gita, was first spoken to the sun god. And the sun god explained it to Manu, and Manu explained it to Ikshvaku, and in that way, by disciplic succession, one speaker after another, this yoga system has been coming down. But in course of time, it has become lost. Consequently, the Lord has to speak it again, this time to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So what could possibly be signs or understanding? What does it mean that in course of time it has become lost? So what are some... Thanks. You have to speak loud, even you can... Oh! Yeah. Or the telephone game.
Parampara is not actually a game of Chinese whispers.
What is it?
It's no change, no addition, no subtraction. The perfect vibration is passed on. So what was the question?
When we say the chain of succession was lost, how do we understand that? How it happens?
Even the slightest deviation.
Yeah.
As Prabhupada gives the example, that even you deviate slightly over a long period of time.
Yeah. Just a little bit. Just a little. It's just a little thing, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Just a little thing. We my husband, my late husband, he was into agriculture, and he had a habit of saving seeds. So anyone who was interested in saving seeds, he was interested in them. So there's a group of a community of Amish people in the United States, very conservative, very traditional Christian background, and they never, so far, that I'm aware of, deviate from their strict Christian principles. They don't use machinery, they don't use electricity, they don't ride in cars, etc., etc., etc. The reason that it has connection here. So they have this newsletter on seed saving. Uh-oh. Help, I forgot why I was saying this. Seed saving. change. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Krishna. So in the handwritten article that they must have mimeographed, that they send out, there was one discussion how one of the elders was commenting on how people are getting away from, the men were getting away from wearing suspenders to hold their pants up. It was a very traditional thing. They had their traditional way of dressing, working, talking, so many things. And when this elder saw that some of the men were not using suspenders, he called them to task. He pointed it out. No, this is a deviation, because one little deviation is, in the long run, is going to lead to another deviation, Just like we see on this carpet here, the lines are relatively straight, but if I had laid the carpet, it would be a little bit crooked, just a little bit. And by the end, from here to there, it would be a big lump in the rug, So it's very important. And that's why it's important, and we can't think that it's somebody else's responsibility. It's our responsibility. We have the perfect knowledge here given by Srila Prabhupada as it is. It's our responsibility to imbibe it to the best of our ability and to follow it to the best of our ability. And it's other people's responsibility to do other things, but it's not that we are not responsible. We are responsible also. We have our teeny area of responsibility to stay true to the teachings and instructions of Srila Prabhupada. And how can we do that if we don't know them, if we don't read them, if we don't bathe our consciousness in Prabhupada's books every day? I was in Mexico in 1975 when Srila Prabhupada came to Mexico. And one darshan, they had arranged for him to speak to the cardinal. But unfortunately, the cardinal wasn't pious enough to come. He didn't think it was important enough to come, so he just sent some priests. Nice priests, but they were kind of like slightly dull-headed personalities. But anyway, aside from that, in the course of discussion with Srila Prabhupada, after the priests left the room, Prabhupada said, they're not true Christians because they don't follow. They don't follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. They say they're following. Oh, I'm a follower of Srila Prabhupada. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. But they're not following the teachings. And so he said, he made the remark that as soon as I said that they should give up bullfighting in Mexico, they should stop the bullfighting, these men, they've actually, I didn't notice it at the time, but after Prabhupada mentioned it, they did. They started to wiggle. They got very uncomfortable. They looked at their watch and they realized, oh, we have another meeting we have to go to. I'm sorry, Your Excellency, but we have to go now. So as soon as they left the room, Prabhupada said they're not true Christians because they don't follow. And then he went on to say a few other points, but he said, my books are so important that even, he said, wait, hold on, before I get there. He said, so you must follow. You must chant 16 rounds every day, follow the 4 regulative principles, and read my books every day. My books are so important that even I read my books every day. So this is our job. And as our hair gets grayer and our body gets crunchier and more uncomfortable, it's even more our job to do it. Not just while we're young and healthy, which is also your job while you're young and healthy, but especially we've got, the hourglass is upside down. Good, glad that the lid was on tight. The hourglass is upside down. Most of the sand is on the bottom for most of us now. Take advantage of whatever time, whatever spark of consciousness we have left. And if we might think, oh, I've got plenty of time left. Well, read Prabhupada's books and you realize death can, we already know this, death can come at any second. We're thinking, oh, I got plenty of time. Okay, Hare Krishna, sorry. Next paragraph. He tells Arjuna that he is relating this supreme secret to him because Arjuna is his devotee and his friend. The purport of this is that Bhagavad-Gita is a treatise which is especially meant for the devotee of the Lord. There are 3 classes of transcendentalists. Whoa. Jnani, yogi, and bhakta, or the impersonalist, the meditator, and the devotee. Here the Lord clearly tells Arjuna that he is making him the first receiver of a new parampara, disciplic succession, because the old succession was broken. It was the Lord's wish, therefore, to establish another parampara in the same line of thought that was coming down from the sun god to others. And it was his wish that his teaching be distributed anew by Arjuna. So when I was reading this, one thought entered my mind, a couple of thoughts. An example. Can you think of an example that's not often given, but it's there. It's out there in the transcendental ether of Prabhupada's books, of an example of how there was a deviation and the deviation became the norm. It's a story. I don't know if it's what kind of a story it is, a Vedic story.
Well, I remember one, but I don't know it.
Nanda, can you pass the mic to her, please? Thanks.
I don't know if this is the one you're thinking of, and I don't know it well. But something about people that were performing a fire sacrifice or some ritual like that, and a cat came in with us.
That's the one. The cat. The cat story.
The wedding story.
The what?
The wedding story.
The wedding?
It was a wedding.
Oh,
You know it better.
There was a wedding story with a kid in it.
okay. Well, we're just familiar. The one that I'm referring to, it might be the same one that you are, is when the cat was making so much noise, the Acharya said, tie that cat up in the back. You know, and then he went on with his lecture. And so it got to be a habit that every time that he would give a lecture, they would tie the cat up. So actually what evolved was tying the cat up became the most important part. And people forgot to listen to the lecture. So we're thinking deviation isn't going to happen to us, right? We're following in the parampara. You want another story? A true story? I was in the same temple in Mexico in 74, 75. And there was some difficulty in the temple, not surprising, right? And the devotees thought, this new temple president, he's actually a representative of Kali. And so they had read the Bhagavatam, right? They knew the story of Parikshit, how Parikshit received the age of Kali, right? And so what was the example there? A person, unqualified person, was dressed as a king. And therefore, Parikshit, when he saw that unqualified person, he took him to task and chastised him, right? So they were thinking, this person who's the temple president is an unqualified person, and it's our duty to take him to task and to rectify the situation. This is I'm giving you the synopsis of the story, but it actually did happen. And so they took the temple president at gunpoint, and they locked him in the closet, and then they called the GBC. No, they didn't harm him. They just locked him in the closet because he was too strict. And then they called the GBC and said, we need a new temple president because we, like Parikshit, have now dethroned the unqualified personality temple president. And now when we hear it, we think, oh, that was so silly. Oh, what? But when you were living in that situation, it was quite amazing. And it was quite difficult to change people's understanding. Impossible, until the GBC stepped in. But whatever, I'm just saying, we're thinking that it's not going to happen here. That means we're already half asleep. We just have to be. I'm just no political innuendo. Thank you. Couldn't think of the big word intended. But just we need to imbibe that so we can see if there's some deviation. Not that it's our whatever. Okay, sorry, I'll go on. But but we need. Otherwise, we're responsible also. Sorry, Hare Krishna. Therefore, I'm skipping a couple of sentences, but I'm in the same paragraph. Therefore, Bhagavad-Gita is best understood by a person who has qualities similar to Arjuna. So what were the 2 qualities mentioned that Arjuna had that made him qualified to hear? and yeah, friend and devotee, not envious. He wasn't envious, and he was a friend of Krishna. So now Prabhupada's going to go right into the 5 primary rasas. Amazing, huh? We're just tipping our toes in the water of Bhagavad-Gita, and Prabhupada's already talking about the 5 primary rasas. Okay, here he goes. That is, as soon as one becomes a devotee of the Lord, he also has a direct relationship with the Lord. That's no small sentence. That means you and I and the person next to you and all the people, everyone has a direct relationship with the Lord. A direct relationship with the Lord. A personal, direct, unique relationship with the Lord. In 7th canto Bhagavatam, in the story of Hiranyakashipu the Lord killing Hiranyakashipu, in the purport there, Srila Sanatana Goswami, it's quoted in the Bhagavatam, Sanatana Goswami says that the Lord has unlimited qualities. Why? Because there's unlimited jivas. And each jiva is attracted to the Lord in a unique way for one of those unlimited qualities. So we have that unique relationship with the Lord and never be satisfied without it. Okay. That is a very elaborate subject matter, but briefly can be stated that a devotee is in a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in 5 different ways. One may be a devotee in a passive state, and the Sanskrit is Shantaras. One may be a devotee in an active state, Dasyarath, a servant. One may be a devotee as a friend, Sakyaras. One may be a devotee as a parent, Vatsalya. And one may be a devotee as conjugal lover. So those are the 5 primary rasas. So how many indirect rasas are there? How many indirect rasas are there? 7. 7 indirect rasas, and you'll get a sweet ball as you go out the door if you can say all 7 indirect rasas. Give it a try. Ghastliness.
Is that the same as horror?
I don't, you know what? I said that and then I thought, oh, I'm going to be in trouble because there's ghastliness, there's chivalry, there's laughter, there's a few others. Comedy, there's even devastation, adbhuta, wonder. Yeah, there's 7 indirect rasas, and those indirect ones mixed with the 5 primary ones gives for what? Krishna to get the name Akila Rasamrita Murti. He's the source. He's the source of all relationships. And that's what we're all looking for. We're all looking for different relationships, and they have different flavors. You have a friend that you like to joke with. You have a friend that you're very serious with. You have a friend that's like a mother to you, or, you have those relationships, and we're all looking for those relationships in the wrong place. So, but we also need to exhibit those relationships with each other too. Okay, anyway. If you have a comment or a question, you can try to interrupt. Arjuna was in relationship with the Lord as a friend. Of course, Prabhupada points out right away, there's a gulf of difference between the friendship, mundane friendship, and the friendship of Arjuna and Krishna, because it's a transcendental friendship which cannot be had by everyone. Of course, everyone has a particular relationship with the Lord, and that relationship is evoked by the perfection of devotional service. But in the present status of our life, not only have we forgotten the Supreme Lord, but we have forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord. We've forgotten that, and we're looking for that relationship in so many places that's not giving us satisfaction, close to satisfaction, and nowhere near full satisfaction, because that can only be in relationship to the Lord. Every living being out of the many, many billions and trillions of living entities, and that's an underestimate of the living entities, has a particular relationship with the Lord eternally. It can never be broken. That is Swarup, called Swarup. By the process of devotional service, one can revive that Swarup. And that stage is called Swarup Siddhi, the perfection of one's constitutional position. So Arjuna was a devotee, and he was in touch with the Supreme Lord in friendship. And now, Srila Prabhupada gives such a logical presentation of how we should understand Bhagavad Gita. How should we understand Bhagavad Gita in synopsis form? As Arjuna did. It makes so much sense, doesn't it? Arjuna, Krishna's talking to Arjuna. Arjuna understands it in a certain way. And then when we study Bhagavad Gita, if we come up with a different conclusion than Arjuna, something's wrong. And those people who present Bhagavad Gita coming up with a different conclusion than Arjuna comes to, something's wrong there. It's unfortunate that the light doesn't come on when you say, well, how's that? That doesn't, is a different conclusion. Arjuna concludes in in the 10th chapter, how Arjuna understood. Let's chant these verses together. Arjuna uvacha param brahma param dhamma pavitram paramam bhavan purusham shashvatam divyam adidevam ajam vibhum ahostvam rashaya sarve devarshir naradastata asita devalovyasa svayam chaiva bravishime sarvam etadritam manye yanman vadasi keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidur Deva Nadanava. Would somebody like to read that translation? Who has the microphone somewhere? Over there? Please. Thank you.
Arjuna said, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyas confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality."
You can continue if you don't mind, or pass the mic, whatever, please.
After hearing the Bhagavad-Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. Every living being is Brahman, and but the Supreme living being, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the Supreme Brahman. Param Dharma means that he is the supreme rest, or abode of everything. Pavitram means that he is pure, untainted by material contamination. Purusham means that he is the supreme enjoyer. Shashvatam, eternal. Divyam, transcendental. Adi Devam, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ajam, the unborn, and Vibhum, the greatest.
Thanks. So what's here, for those of you that were here in the previous nights, what's here that reminds you of something that Prabhupada spoke of in the preface, in this paragraph here? Does anything click with you, what was spoken in the preface? One thing that he was saying?
We have to enjoy in relationship to Krishna in that
The qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The qualities of the Supreme Personality, true, but there's something else that I'm trying to get at. The Prabhupada mentioned in the preface why he was, okay, here's your hint, why he was disappointed when his book became cut short. Okay, does that ring a bell? Okay, I'll give you the answer. Ha ha. Do you have the answer? Yes, because giving the word, he was disappointed. In the preface, Prabhupada mentions he was disappointed when the book was, Bhagavad Gita was first published, the little blue edition was cut short by 400 pages. And therefore, a lot of the word for word translation wasn't included, and many of the purports were taken out. But what Prabhupada was saying, this word for word meaning gives the book authority. It's not, where is Prabhupada getting the chutzpah, the ability or whatever, the wherewithal to translate the verses. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. It is this. He's giving the word for word meaning of the Sanskrit word to the text so that you see, oh, he's not making it up. He's translating the verse as it is. Therefore, it's authoritative. It's not an imagination of Srila Prabhupada's. And this is linked very importantly with the value, the importance of the parampara. It's very important. Okay. Now one may think that because Krishna was a friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him this in the way of flattery. We mentioned that already. How Arjuna, someone might say, oh, that's Krishna's his friend, so he's just thinking his friend is really great. But then he quotes Devala, Asita, Narada, all the great sages who also accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Going down to the middle of the paragraph. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he, capital H, says to be completely perfect. Sarvam etad ritam manye. I accept everything you say as to be true. Arjuna also says that the personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand and that he cannot be known even by the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human beings. So how can a human being understand Lord Shri Krishna without becoming his devotee? Rahasyam. It's a secret. Unless one becomes a devotee. Srila Prabhupada will say in a few paragraphs, I think maybe in this last, okay, we only have one more paragraph for our assigned. I'll read that. And then if it's not in this paragraph, can you remind me what I want to say about why? Okay, anyway, here. Therefore, Bhagavad-Gita should be taken up in a spirit of devotion. One should not think that he, small h, is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality or even a very great personality. Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So according to the statements of Bhagavad-Gita or the statements of Arjuna, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad-Gita, this is the part that I wanted to say, that they should at least theoretically accept Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand Bhagavad-Gita. Unless one reads Bhagavad-Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad-Gita because it is a great mystery. So Srila Prabhupada says here and then in other places, he says, even if you can't accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, even if you don't accept it in the beginning, at least theoretically, you should put aside your doubts while you're reading. And at least theoretically, for the time being that you're reading Bhagavad Gita, accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then just see how the mysteries of Bhagavad Gita will open up to you. So, again, these are some of our foundational, philosophical building blocks, giving us some structure to understand as we go forth in our study of the Bhagavad Gita, how if we have these certain things in place, certain understandings in place, then we can build our understanding stronger and stronger on these principles. So what was the two principles that were mentioned were Arjuna's qualification for understanding the Bhagavad Gita? Devotee and a friend. Is not envious. He was not envious. So, interestingly enough, here's my question to you all. So when we read the disciplic succession of the parampara that's listed in the beginning of the Gita, do you see Arjuna's name there? Why not? It's not there. Krishna speaks to Brahma, Brahma speaks to Nanda, Narada to Vyas, this one Madhvacharya, blah, 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 blah. Sorry. Different various names. But Arjuna's name isn't there. But here it is stated again in the 4th chapter that Gita, that Krishna is reestablishing the parampara through Arjuna, but we don't see Arjuna becomes an itinerant mendicant preacher of Bhagavad Gita. So is there something wrong there? Would you like to explain?
How not our parampara. It's a parampara of saintly kings, and Arjuna is restarting that parampara.
Mm-hmm.
But the same message is there.
Same message. Yeah. It's interesting to consider those things. Any further comments or questions?
Yes, that tied in just with the comment or question that I had earlier when you were talking about the importance of not deviating even a little bit because it could lead to a tangent that went way off course. So I've understood that it's very important that we not change the teachings, and yet it's just as important, that we present according to the particular audience. Just like I mentioned last night, how Prabhupada said when he was translating, but it takes great concentration how to present it for the common man.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was speaking to one devotee after the class from who preaches in the Paris temple, and I was remembering reading that when Prabhupada was walking in Paris with the devotees one time, someone asked him, how should we preach to the French people? And Prabhupada said, you know, you're French. They're your people. So it's like if you get the philosophy, particular people will resonate with certain aspects. So how do we balance? Or like what she said, that Arjuna's parampara was the one of the Rajarshis, the saintly kings. So that's a comment and maybe a question as well.
Okay. 1 second, and then Ananda has something else. So one thing that comes to my mind is something that Yasoda Mai was saying. One example she gave, the example of Einstein. Remember 2 days back when Yasoda Mai gave class? Remember what Einstein said? The quote that she had on the screen about Einstein? One of his sayings. He said, if you don't understand it well enough, you can't explain it. How does he say you can't explain it?
Explain it to a 6-year-old. You don't understand it well enough.
Yeah, if you can't explain it simply, then you don't understand it well enough. Yeah, so that's one thing. We need to, and Prabhupada encouraged us. He encouraged us to explain it in his own words. And then another example that Prabhupada himself gave and did himself was when he was in Butler, Pennsylvania. What was he doing? He wasn't doing anything apparently externally great in the very beginning. He was, of course, but he was watching. He was watching the culture and how the people acted and how they interacted in the world. And so he was analyzing how to present it to them, So, but, and one could use the example, I'm trying to think of where I heard that was in, maybe it was in the Prabhupada Today that comes in my email. Yes, it was. There was a question about chanting 16 rounds. It was actually here in Vrindavan. One devotee was asking Prabhupada if there was shastric reference as to why we chant 16 rounds. Because, there's the story that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said that if you don't chant 64 rounds, you're considered fallen. So he said, so we accept whatever you say, Srila Prabhupada, but how do we tell other people when they question why 16? And Srila Prabhupada said, this is what the Acharya does. He gives what you can do. He says, regulated, there has to be a regulated number of chanting, and I have given 16, minimum. And always he would say that in all our initiation letters. Chant minimum 16, not just 16, minimum. But he could, as a great transcendentally realized personality, he could make those adjustments. But it's not that any bhakta or bhaktin or whomever can make adjustments to the. There's another lesson in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, of understanding what a principle is and what a detail is. So oftentimes, kanistas, we have the tendency to argue over details, split hairs over the details. But what's the principle behind it? That's what we need to understand. Ananda, would you like to add or and love? Yes, yes.
I believe it's in the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada has a sentence where he says, if the house is on fire, you may not know the language, but you're able to get the message across one way or
Mm-hmm.
So the message is what's the driving force. How it's presented
Is the detail.
Get us from here to there.
Yes.
Not that that the house is on fire.
Yeah.
Not that well, the house is on fire, but maybe we can have a little snack before we get around to putting it on.
Yeah.
It's an emergency.
Yeah.
That's the mood of the acharyas.
Yes.
In the disciplic succession.
Yes.
That
Yes.
This is an emergency. Finish in this lifetime.
Yeah.
That's,
And that ties in again with the very beginning, which reminds me of another thing. Haha. But anyway, it ties in with the very beginning of the introduction here. I forgot it. Sorry. But it tied in. It tied out, sorry. Get the message across. Anyway. But that reminded me of another point, that the last slok, Gita 78 purport, Prabhupada in that slok, in that purport, he talks about the 5 primary rasas. And here we are. Preface, introduction. Prabhupada's talking about the 5 so it's a complete transcendental circle. Prabhupada, you wanted to add something?
Correct. Nanda, you were speaking about deviations, how deviations are going on. When I understand, I listen to Prabhupada lectures and everything. When Prabhupada singing Jai Radha Madhava, after finishing, he says, thank you very much. But now we see how the difference are there, what Prabhupada used to say. And you were addressing just now as Prabhu, Mataji or Prabhu.
Mm-hmm.
But now addressing is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
You see how we are going in different paths.
Mm.
So Guru Parampara, we say we are following Guru Parampara, we are following Prabhupada. We should think in our mind whether we are correctly doing that one or we are deviating from there. And if we are debating, we should try to correct everyone. And I mostly do those things, but many of them, they don't agree to that one. And they say whatever we are doing is okay. But what Prabhupada given to us, we should try to follow that one. Correct.
I agree with that principle. Thank you. Hare Krishna. One more thing? Thank you, Prabhu.
thank you very much. Very important.
You have to speak loud, even into the microphone, please.
It is written that technically you have to accept that Krishna is supreme, isn't it? But the person who tries to read Bhagavad-Gita, if it is in university level, he will find a dictionary, and even in Oxford dictionary, that Krishna is one of the Hindu gods.
Yes.
So devotee have to react on that, do something, or ignore that one. How to explain this situation?
Okay, if I'm understanding your question properly, you're asking for a new person who's reading Bhagavad Gita, and they're reading about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then they're not necessarily accepting that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when they look in the dictionary and they see Krishna is one of the many Hindu gods, and then your question is, how do we address that? Okay, thanks. I just want to make sure I got. So one of the things that will happen, if they're fortunate enough to read, perhaps they might not get that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So for many of us, and I think even in the examples last night, some people, when they read Bhagavad Gita, they couldn't accept everything, but something spoke to them. You're not your body. Oh, wow. So maybe they don't get all the principles immediately, but because it is transcendental pure sound vibration, they're getting something. Something enters in, and it will, by proper cultivation, grow, and their understanding will grow. Perhaps they'll get some prasadam. Perhaps they'll wash a pot, roll a chapati, get another book, and it will grow. Perhaps not right away, but that seed, the seed is planted. That's what comes to my mind. Does anyone else want to add to that? In like a needle, out like a plow. Perfect example. Perfect, easy to understand. Yeah. So there's something there. And that's why Prabhupada would say, what would he say about the book distributors? Even if they read one paragraph even if they read one line, even if they just touch the book. Even sometimes at Vaisheshika Prabhu, he would stand on the corner and he would just see who looks at the book and smiles. Oh, that person is ready. Because perhaps before they got a sweet ball, perhaps after that they got a this. But now they look at the book and smile and they say, here, where are you coming in from, Prabhu? Or whatever they say, you know. So gradually, and that's the thing that Krishna explains to us so wonderfully in the Gita, that whatever little bit we do in devotional service is never lost. Sometimes in our sojourn of Krishna consciousness, a person might get discouraged after 45 years of chanting Hare Krishna, and they still think on my body, and I still think on my mind, and I still, so many things. But whatever little endeavor we've made is never lost, and Krishna remembers that. And one starts off from the next point, even to the point so many stories are there in the Bhagavatam and Krishna book, and so many, even to the point where Putana comes to Krishna with poison on her breast, but Krishna accepts her as a mother and therefore elevates her to a position of a nurse. So who could do that in their ordinary dealings? Someone comes and kills your son. Are you going to say, oh, my dear, that's just wonderful that you did that. Let me bring you into my house and treat you as my son now? It's, you know what I mean? When you think of a practical life example, very, very, but Krishna's seventh canto, after Lord Nrsingadev kills Hiranyakashipu, Prabhupada says that Lord Nrsingadev was very happy to sit on Nrsingadev's throne. Now, why would he be happy to sit on such a rascal's throne? You know? Did I say it wrong? Sorry, but I'm glad you're following. Thanks. Why would he be happy? Because he didn't see him as the demon. He saw him, this is my eternal servant. And he's playing that role. And therefore, I accept that service from him. So he sees that. For you and me also, not just for Prahlad Maharaj, not just for Parikshit Maharaj, not for the great devotees in the Bhagavatam, that a position of purity that perhaps we feel like we'll never attain. But Krishna's there in our hearts, and our relationship with him is direct and eternal and can never be lost. And he's just encouraging us time after time and time after time again to reawaken, not only that we're his servant, but that we have a direct relationship with him in some unique way. And he's trying to revive that. It's never lost. And so I will say, my favorite verse, my favorite slok, my favorite quote from Srila Prabhupada's books, and we'll end with this. Nectar of Instruction, verse 3, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the process of bhakti is so pure and potent that once having begun, one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad-Gita ki jai. Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo, jai. Vanchakalpa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. I say that quote in every class, but it always fits. Hare Krishna.